Hot spot still.
Okay, so we are going live. We are coming live to you any moment now. We're just letting the Zoom to Facebook integration finish up, wrap up. We are live. Hello, Matthew Ferry. Thank you for joining me today.
I'm excited about being here. I'm hoping we can be of service to the community and support people in coming to a place of peace in this crisis.
That is both of our mission. And I know we tried to come on live a couple of days ago and the Zoom to Facebook interface wasn't working really well. So today I think is an even better day because we've had a couple of days to get our minds around what's happening. And some people have their mind around what's happening more than others. I want to share a little backstory with our viewers now and folks who are joining us live and watching a little later. So Matthew, you and Kristen, your lovely wife and business partner and financial manager extraordinaire in your business. Hi, I see everybody saying hi and joining us. Awesome. So you and Kristen, a couple of years ago, turned me on to an author and economist by the name of Harry Dent. No,
Harry Dent.
Harvey,
Yep.
Harry. Sorry, I just
Harry
looked it up
Dent.
a few moments ago.
Yep.
And his body of work is around market cycles. His great book that you recommended a few years ago is called The Sale of a Lifetime. And when I read that book, I listened. I listened to the book a few years ago, and I had some big, and I still have some big real estate investor clients. And 2 years ago, we started totally re-engineering their business, getting ready for what we know would be a market correction because markets are cyclical. We knew this was coming. We did not know it would be from a global viral pandemic, but you and Kristen prepping me a couple of years ago helped my big real estate clients prep, helped me think about plan B scenarios for a lot of my clients. I encouraged them to create those in our annual business planning. Some created plan B scenarios, some people didn't want to think about it. And here we are now. And so I want to start off first with, of course, with you introducing yourself. And telling people a little bit who you are and how it is that you are so closely connected to Wall Street, what's happening with those guys, real and women, real estate, kind of what you've been doing in your business. So I want to start kind of globally and kind of broad, if you will, before we drill into what we planned out with getting into some of the daily practices for a quiet mind. So we will get there, but I want to kind of paint the picture and let our viewers in on kind of behind the scenes, if you will, from your perspective. So bring us up to speed. Yeah.
All right, bringing you up to speed. I started off in the training and teaching business in 1989, so it's been a long time now. And I began in my father's real estate sales training business, and that was the place that I really learned about cycles the hard way. We went into boom and bust cycles, and boom and bust cycles actually occur in different markets at different times as well. So, for example, the New York real estate market has been going through a bust and a deflationary cycle, blah, 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 falling apart, whereas Florida has been rocking, right? So, all at the same time right now. But that business really led to me trying to understand what was happening with myself in the background. And in the background, when I was very young, I had these moments where I was leaving my body, and I mean, that's what it felt like. I don't know if I was leaving my body, but that's what it felt like. And I was having these incredible moments of bliss and peace. And most of my life, I've been seeking that out. Like, what was that? And so here I was in the business world teaching real estate agents how to sell more houses, but in the background, I was figuring out how do I get back to that place of profound bliss and peace and harmony and oneness. Well, 1999, I began to just go full throttle into the ideas of how does your mental, emotional, spiritual state affect your productivity. And by 2003, I began working with people on Wall Street. And I've been working with people on Wall Street ever since. And today I have two coaching offerings that I do. So I have one coaching program which is working with me personally, and that's mostly people on Wall Street, some real estate investors or developers, that kind of thing. Then I have on the other side, I have my mastermind, and that is real estate investors, real estate agents, entrepreneurs, mid-sized businesses. And so I'm connected to the world of commerce in those two ways. And my primary job has been, how do you maintain your peace, your joy, your flow, your certainty, your confidence in the volatility that naturally happens in business. And we're in a time of major volatility where there's going to be a tremendous amount of pain and suffering and financial devastation. But the techniques that I work with people on, everybody's going through their own version of volatility in their own life all the time. So the things that I've developed over the years have been about how do you smooth out the volatility, go through it in a way where you're at peace.
Yeah, that is the name of your game. I know that. I've been on this journey with you since you said you started in 1989. We connected in about 1997. And one of the things that drew me closer to you and drew us closer together is when you started doing that real consciousness work. And I was like, what are you doing? Because you're doing more than just how to cold call and objection handle. And I want in. And we've been connected ever since and having these kinds of conversations. And so on a technical note, before we dive into the next cut of our conversation, I don't know if you have stuff on your Wi-Fi or if Kristen's on Wi-Fi, but your video is really choppy. Your audio
Yeah.
is great.
Yep.
Anything you want
Let
to?
let me just send a note to Kristen and see.
Okay, just in case.
Are you on video or Skype?
And if you are,
Yeah,
please get
I think
off.
she's actually listening. Yeah, so
Oh,
she's
okay,
actually
okay, okay.
responding to me.
She could go
Yeah,
onto her phone and watch on her data plan. And hey,
yeah,
Kristen.
exactly.
So Matthew, when I messaged you late last week, I sent you a
Here she
video.
comes. Hold
Okay,
on.
cool.
What? Yeah, we're recording. We're doing our thing. Okay. Oh, so she can't find it on Facebook. I think we're on Erin's page.
We are. We're on
So if
my
you could,
we're on my personal
yeah,
page. Tell her to go on my phone, or I'm sorry, on her phone.
yeah. So if you would go on the personal page and share, it'd be great. And then if our video's going really slow, so we're just wondering if you were doing any video
Yeah.
conferencing. That's it. Hi. We're live on Facebook right now. Hello.
Exactly. We are. We are. And this is what everybody is
Exactly.
going through. This is what everybody's dealing with.
Uh-huh.
And when I sent you a note last week, I've been telling people that I get a lot of clarity when I take my warm bath each night. And I sent you a voice text while I was in the bath saying, "Oh my God, we've got to get on a Facebook Live." And then I sent you a second note that said, "By the way, your wife is a financial genius." Because I know that she is one of the driving forces behind the financial stability in your life and in your business. And she's been helping you and helping me and dozens and probably hundreds of other people prepare financially for this. That aside, do you
I'm
want to
very
just
lucky.
you are very lucky. You're very lucky. And
Hmm.
I know where you came from. So we both can say you are very lucky.
Yep.
So do you want to dive into, why don't we set up the worst case scenario exercise, which you have been teaching for many years. I think it came originally out of Dr. Hawkins' work, and I don't know where he got it, but you have really embraced that exercise and taken it to a whole new level. And it's
Yeah,
something that I talked
I
about
don't think I
last.
learned that one. I didn't learn that one from Doc Hawk.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
learned many things from Doc Hawk, but the worst case scenario exercise, I think was I'm sure I learned it from somewhere. It just feels intuitive to me,
Yes.
because fear. I have a real sensitivity to fear. I'm a very sensitive person, and when I feel fear, it's very, very destructive to me, and it creates a tremendous amount of mental, emotional instability. And so I've been in hot pursuit of ways to completely reduce. And when I say completely, I mean like completely reduce fear, mitigate the anxieties, the all the things that come up as life is coming at you full force. And so I think the first time I did the worst case scenario was when I wrote my book, Creating Sales Velocity, and it upset my father. And I had a 7-figure income coming in through that company, and I wrote this book, and now suddenly my income was at stake. And I sat down with my wife at the time, and I just said, "We have to. I think we need to just face the possibility that me talking about how to be a conscious salesperson and how to use spiritual ideas to your advantage could be the end of my relationship with my father, which means it would be the end of, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, essentially. And so we went through the process of letting it all go. And ever since, it's been a tactic that I've used to maintain my trust, my confidence, my certainty, my peace. Because when your mind is quiet and when you're at peace, your resources, your mental, emotional, intellectual resources are enhanced. And when you're in fear, your entire set of ideas everything is shrunk down to be in problem solving mode, and that's not the best way to solve a problem. To get
Mhm.
hyper focused on the problem is not the best way to solve the problem. The best way to solve the problem is to open way up and to just be in a place where you're able to see all the possibilities. And when you're in a quiet mind state, that actually occurs. So the worst case scenario, I've been doing it now for weeks with all of my clients. And this is what I'm going to recommend to all of our viewers right now. Face the worst case scenario, write it out, write out the nastiest, most horrific, terrible result that your drunk monkey in your mind is playing. And I mean, go all the way, go all the way, go all the way down to the most hardcore, the worst possible thing you can imagine. And do not try to avoid it. Don't, when you're writing it down, don't say, oh, but I'll do this instead, or I'll be able to, that. Don't do any of that stuff, because the drunk monkey in your head is a survival system. So even though you might be right now contingency planning, trying to avoid the worst case scenario, the drunk monkey still sneaks in there and goes, yeah, but it's coming. You're going to get screwed. And it actually activates fear. And that fear then reduces your ability to see, and now your capability of being an effective problem solver is reduced. So write out the worst possible thing that could happen, then create a plan from there. So don't create a plan to avoid it. Create a plan if it happens. Now, this is contrary to what my mentors told me that I should do. My mentors told me, don't focus on what you don't want, only focus on what you do want. And I'm very loyal, and I'm very much a do what my teachers ask me to do. Like, I'll go all the way 100% into things. And what I found was, if I didn't face that worst case scenario, if I didn't actually get as negative as I possibly could and then make the plan from there, I wasn't able to get my mind to go all the way quiet. My mind still, because my mind is a survival system. So it kept jumping in and going, yeah, but what about this, Matthew? This is coming. You're going to get screwed. What about this? And once I had the plan in place, like if it goes to hell in a handbasket, once I had the plan in place, then all of a sudden I can really think and dream, and new possibilities arise, and new creative insights, and I'm coming from a place of peace. So Kristen and I started doing this about a month ago when we saw the coronavirus shutting down China. We were like, whoa, this could be really bad. And then, of course, it was way worse than we thought. So then we had to do the worst case scenario again a few weeks ago. Then we did the worst case scenario again last week. And already this morning, already she was in my office and we were planning for even worse. Like if we do hit 30% unemployment, how does that impact us, and how we just tried to understand, like, what is the most negative we could possibly experience, and then what would we do. And then we got to that place of peace, and then I got on with you, because
Yeah.
I don't want to be here with you with my own stuff in the background going, what if, that wouldn't be of service to anyone.
Yes. Yes. And so let's just kind of recap. I want to turn my light up here that's on my face just a tiny bit. I want to recap why we care about this, why we care about having a quiet mind, because some people tuning in with us right now, first of all, some people tuning us with right now have met you, they've been following your work, they were at our event here in St. Louis, they've been listening to your stuff. Others, I just said, you've got to be on this call. And they have not been exposed to these, let's call them philosophies and mindsets, and the intention of a quiet mind. Um, you know, I don't know. What's there for me, Matthew, is I know we said we were
Yeah.
just kind of spitball this let's just jump on a call and have a conversation, is just for my own self. Okay. So I am in massive action and I am not experiencing any real stress, any real upset. When people get on the phone with me and they're like, how are you doing? I mean, I kind of pull myself back from saying, I'm
Yeah.
great.
You have to.
Like,
Yeah. You have to.
right? Yeah. Or
You
people
got
are
to be
like,
in
what is
rapport.
wrong with you? I got
Yeah.
exactly
You got to
be in
be in
deep
rapport.
rapport. Got to
Yeah.
be in rapport.
Yeah.
Actually, rapport is something I just, your style of rapport is something I just worked with my clients on last month on mirroring, matching, and mimicking. But like, I am inspired. I am in action. I haven't
But
done the worst case
but
scenario.
this but listen, we have to back up, because even that, like you and I talking about that, could really be agitating to our viewers. So I think we
Okay.
need to step back one. We need to step back
Okay,
one, because I
good.
want to start with this
Good.
idea that you said. So first of all, the inspiration and the action and the excitement and the enthusiasm that you're experiencing is not one of ignorance. It's actually one of profound awareness. And so if we step back and we say, why? Who gives a shit about a quiet mind? Who cares? Why? The answer is so simple. First of all, the American Institute of Stress says that 78% of Americans say that they experience psychological stress on a regular basis. I would imagine if we did a assessment right now, it might be 95, 96, 97% of Americans are experiencing stress. And this is really bad news, because stress itself does a couple things. One, it sets you up to be sick. And all of us right now, we need to be healthy more than ever. Your immune system is really taxed by your stress. Having a quiet mind will boost your immune system and create a more fortified physiological system. But the other thing is, for our entrepreneurs, and that's who our clients are: entrepreneurs, executives, CEOs. These are the people who are working diligently to make sure that they are not only making money for themselves, they're serving their clients, and they're serving all of their constituents. For them, when your mind is quiet, you make better decisions. If you are stressed, your decision making becomes hijacked by fear-based inputs, and it'll actually reduce the effectiveness of your decision making. You're harder to be around when you're stressed. You are more repelling to the people around you. You don't see the whole picture. Your creativity is diminished. So having a quiet mind is one of the most effective things you can do if you're a high-minded person, and that's important to know. Not everybody's high-minded, but I suspected, and I don't mean high-minded, low-minded, like there's a like good or bad. It's just like there are people who are committed to uh, optimizing their inner state. We'll call that high-minded, and then there are people who are committed to optimizing their external state. And those people they just have a different set of agendas. They won't even care about what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that was a great point that, what I'm sharing about my experience could be agitating for folks. And the only reason I'm even having the experience I'm having is because I have been studying with you for almost 20 years.
Yes.
So thank you. And so, from the worst case scenario, folks can go all the way down, as you call it, go all the way down. Don't avoid anything. Can you just give us an example of what a worst case scenario looks and sounds like?
No problem. Yeah, sure. Um, Worst case scenario, I'm a restaurant owner. I've already let go of most of my staff. I'm hanging on with a thread, hoping that people will order food to go from my restaurant, but it's probably not going well. And now I have to face the idea of I don't have the cash flow to maintain the business. I'm not sure that I want to take on a loan. I don't know how long this is going to take. And I have to face closing it down, calling up the person that I'm leasing it from, trying to sell all of my equipment, letting all of my people go, and having no income for myself. And I need to go all the way down to that worst case scenario, and I need to do that with the key stakeholders in my life. I need to do that with my wife, my husband, my kids, right? I need to say, like, here is what we're facing, and go all the way to the most negative. We got no income, we're barely hanging on with a thread. Hopefully our landlord or our mortgage holder will let us float for a while. We are scrounging for food. We're and now what, right? What do we do from here? And we have to make a plan of what we do from there, and we have to go into like emergency mode. And then once you make that plan and then you face it with your key stakeholders in your life, and where you just say, here's what I think we would do if the worst happens. And everyone freaks out and goes through their stuff, and they go, and they have all their emotions, all of that stuff happens. But then we just keep saying this. If that happens, will we be okay? And the answer is, for the most part, yeah, you're going to be okay. Will it suck? Yes. Will you not like it? Yes, you will not like it at all. Is it going to be hard? Yeah, it's probably going to be hard. Is it going to be embarrassing? Yep, it's probably going to be embarrassing. Is it going to be gut wrenching? Yep, it's probably going to be gut wrenching. Do you want it to happen? No. But if it does happen, will you survive? And the answer for most people when they get there is, we'll survive. And once you come to that place, now you've deactivated the trigger for the drunk monkey in your head. All of that negative self-talk, the purpose of the negative self-talk is survival. So if you deactivate the survival motive, now suddenly the self-talk has no need to bother you without your permission, to just be needling you and pushing you and agitating you and flashing all these negative scenarios on your mind. And now your mind goes and you see a whole new set of possibilities arise, and those possibilities may not be like immediate things that you can do. We're still in at the time of what we're doing right at this moment. We're right in the middle. We're at the beginning of the crisis right now.
Yep.
This crisis is probably 18 months to 36 months before it's fully wound itself out. And
Mm-hmm.
so we need to be thinking 18 months to 36 months right now, just as conscious people. We can't go into la la land and say 30 days from now it's all going to start returning. Bullshit.
Bullshit.
If you have 30% of the people stop working, you by the time all of that destruction moves through the system, it's going to be 18 months, 36 months. You know what I mean? We're in for what is essentially called an economic winter by Harry Dent. He's one of my favorite guys I like to listen to. I will admit that of my gene pool, I think I have about 10% doomsday prepper in my gene pool somewhere.
Right.
I think Harry does too. So
Right. So, you're not saying take it with a grain of salt. And, this is your, this is kind of your MO. This is your jam. This is what you do. Now, I want to say that when you started talking in detail about worst case scenario, taking a restaurant owner as an example, I got hit with a wave of nausea and anxiety, tightness in my chest. I suspect that our viewers did as well. Is there anything you'd like to say to help us clear that out so that we can hear you now?
yeah, that is what you just experienced is exactly what I'm talking about. Why you don't make the decisions that will take you through this process powerfully, why you don't make them, why you will flub it up, is that you haven't dealt with that wave that just hit you. You haven't gone through the wave, experienced it fully, and made peace with, if it happens, I can deal with it. And until you do that, you will avoid that feeling. And if you avoid that feeling, it'll come back over and over and over and over. It won't come back to the degree that it just came back now, because I was intentionally pushing us all deeply into the negative. Intentional. I was doing that on purpose. And so you felt it, whoa, as you allowed it to come, right? Whoa, oh God, the body just goes like, emergency, no, right? In your day-to-day life, you'll distract yourself. So you'll be doing stuff, but there it will, it's be right here. It's ready to go at any time. And what we need to do is deactivate that so that it's not ready to go. And you've got to do the worst case scenario planning. Kristen and I, we've already been looking at, what if we lose 50, 60, 70% of our business? What are we going to do?
Yes.
How are we going to operate? Like,
Yes.
what is the bare bones minimum? Right?
Yes.
My kids are not going to private school. My son is not going to college. Everybody's back at home. We're moving into a smaller house. Maybe we're moving in with family. We
Yes.
we went all the way, and we're very prosperous, effective people, Erin, but we're willing to look at the most negative and say, if that happens, we won't like it, but we will deal with it.
Yeah.
And then what that's been doing. Now, Kristen and I, as you know, as you've been talking to Kristen, we've been making wild, crazy decisions in the face of this crisis that we think are going to position us to not only weather the storm, but also to come through with what is essentially the opportunity of a lifetime. We are right now in the middle of an opportunity of a lifetime scenario, which seems gut-wrenching and terrible to say
Yes.
publicly to people, as they are probably the people who other people will have opportunities because of. So the question is, how do you move yourself from that side of the equation to this side of the equation? And the answer is, I don't know.
Exactly.
But here's one thing I know for sure. If you are scared to death, you won't know either.
Truth. That's right. That's why, as I told you about maybe, an hour ago, as we were talking about what we were going to talk about. And I said, let's just freeball it. Freeball it. I just said that. That's funny. Let's just freestyle it.
Look at you freeballing. I'm not sure that you know that you can freeball. I think
well,
that's only a guy thing, but whatever.
That is a guy thing. But I said I just called for a weekly call among business coaches and consultants, because we have got to get our mind around what does 6 months, 18 months, 36 months look like? How do we help our clients? How do we help the community that's tuning into me and to you and to people like us to execute on the opportunity of a lifetime? And I know that it's more than just staying focused. It's more than just being in action, because if we're doing that on top of the drunk monkey going crazy about, oh my God, what about this? What about that? Don't let that happen. Don't think about that. Just don't think about that. We're doomed. So we're shifting that.
We're shifting that right now.
We are
So
shifting that
what
right
I'd like to
now.
do is I'd like to I'd like to make a request for our viewer to go download my free app, please. If you go to matthewferry.com/app. So I made the app is for my clients, but I'm giving it to you. So matthewferry.com/app, APP. And in there is a set of meditations and processes that you can use to get your mind to be at ease. And right now, you probably need to be spending 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, 5 minutes in the evening, where you just stop and you listen to one of my little 5 minute meditations on the app. My meditations are a little different, as you can imagine, just based on listening to me. My meditations aren't about being at peace. They're about confronting the insanity of your mind. And when you confront the insanity of your mind, so you'll see my meditations are release hatred, release grudges, release illogical rules, release victim. So you're going to see that I'm pointing to, hold on, I'll show you. I'm pointing to a whole methodology here that I created called the hidden motives to survive. And greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules, humble, traitor, pride, resistance, and lazy. Right now, resistance is running rampant in the world, and hatred of other people is running rampant in the world, and it's creating isolationism. And what we can do as leaders, and I think that the people who are watching this are leaders. I'm just going to relate to you in that way. What we can do as leaders is release our own resistance and notice when we're getting angry or upset and becoming protectionistic and isolating, and work to release those things so that we can then be of service to the community. At this time, your service will not likely come back to you at the level that it has in the past. So in the past, you might have had leverage and a multiple. You may have given to the community, and then because of the leverage that was available to you, the opportunity set available with all the money, you might have got a 3 or 4 or 5x on your return for service. Right now, you may be, here's 10 times service and 1 time result. And you got to start to make peace with that, the reversal of the equation, and know that as you continue to serve and you stay strong, you fortify your own system, you stay in a place of non-resistance, kindness, compassion, openness, creativity, you stay in that state, then all of a sudden you're going to find that when it does start to shift, let's call that maybe beginning of next year or next summer or something like that, when it does start, and I know that scares people when I say that, but I'm connected to Wall Street, and so Wall Street's looking at it in a totally different way than everybody else. And so,
And let me add, when we texted about this, you said, "I promise I will be totally straight with people." And I
yeah,
was like, "Oh shit. Okay, here we go.
yep,
Let's do this. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and have a real straight conversation." And when you say you're connected to Wall Street, I mean, the guys, and I think they're all guys. You've never talked about any women that you're working with in Wall Street.
yeah.
So the guys that you're working with, these are big deal guys. These are not just somebody
These are
on the floor.
top of the food chain. Yeah, top
Absolute
of the
top of the food chain.
top of the food chain, and they're preparing for a global economic winter.
How could they not? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
if you just, if you look at what has happened, and how lasting the impact would logically be if you can think logically and not emotionally, it seems pretty obvious.
Risk is enhanced, or in other words, increased. Risk is increased by emotion, and emotion is a survival system. So human beings have over the millennia, we have overly invested in emotion, and we think of emotion as important and valuable. And while it can be tremendously wonderful to experience emotion, and you'll find that a high-minded person gets off on positive emotions, and here's what you need to know: a low conscious person gets off on negative emotions.
Yes.
And the world at this moment, using Dr. Hawkins' methodology of applied kinesiology, the world appears to be about 15% high conscious people and 85% low conscious people. And that, again, you don't want to listen to that like judgment. You're just measuring the degree to which people experience openness and acceptance, right? That's really what we're talking about. How open are you? How accepting are you? That's what your consciousness can ultimately, what we can measure. So for us, we need to recognize I have way more risk if my emotions are out of whack, and that is too positive or too negative. So learning how to be neutral and in the
Neutral.
middle creates a huge strategic advantage. And this is why I get hired so often on Wall Street. They want this strategic advantage because their families jack up their emotions. Their employees jack up their emotions. The market volatility jacks up their emotions. And so my job is essentially to help them to be even and to be neutral so that they can have a much more powerful relationship to their investing because they can use their mind, not be pulled by their emotions. Can we share some tactics with people?
Yes,
I
that's what
want
I
to
was just
share
going
some
to ask you to
tactics out of my
do.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about quiet mind, epic life, daily practices.
So in the app, you can in the app I have all 23 days of the daily practices there as a gift for you. So please go to matthewferry.com/app and start the daily practices ASAP. They're in the Quiet Mind folder in the app. Okay. So Erin and I went through the daily practices. There's 23 of them, and we said, okay, well, which ones do we want to share with the community to be supportive? And the first one that we wanted to share with people here is to be kind to people even when they don't operate the way that you think that they should. And so I'm just going to read a little bit here, and I want you to think about maybe taking this on today. So kindness will release your resistance, and that's important in this time because resistance will make you more susceptible to getting sick and making bad decisions. So kindness will release your resistance, which will quiet your mind and set you up to live an epic life. And that's the goal of the book is quiet mind, epic life. So just admit that you have a preference about how people should operate. You want to start there. Just be honest. You want people to do what you want them to do. And that's okay. We all want that. The problem is that your preference gets misrepresented by the drunk monkey in your head. So the drunk monkey is my little nickname for all the negative mind chatter in your head. It gets misrepresented as a must, or you are going to be uncomfortable. Like if they don't behave in that way, then I'm uncomfortable. Discomfort gets your mind talking even more and it disturbs your peace. Discomfort is a perspective. In fact, consider that your opinion is your true source of suffering. So discomfort is a perspective and therefore it's a choice. Let's dig deeper. Your preference doesn't mean that you're right. For example, liking chocolate doesn't make vanilla bad. But today, just notice that the drunk monkey creates generalizations and it makes people who like vanilla wrong and it makes them dangerous. The drunk monkey resists differences in people. So just be honest. Being upset with people who like vanilla is literally stupid. You're being upset with people who don't operate the way that you think they should, and that is actually ignorant. They are not a threat to you. The drunk monkey has decided that people who don't behave the way that you want and behave the way you expect are wrong and that you are right. Resisting them robs you of your peace. So today, what I'm requesting of all of our listeners and our viewers is to be extremely kind, to recognize there are a lot of people who are really, really scared. And you might be one of them too, really scared. I'm advising all of my clients do not poo poo what is happening in any way. Don't be a new age jerk off who's like, it's all overblown and so it's all going to be okay. It's just like the flu and you're going to be better. Come on, don't worry about it. Hey, everything's fine.
Don't be so negative.
Yep.
This is a global awakening of a consciousness, blah, blah, blah.
It is a surefire way to make yourself the enemy, and that's not what you're committed to. That's not what you want. So what there is to do is to align and then redirect, to appreciate, to understand, to be compassionate, to recognize that it's not going to work out for a lot of people. It's just not. It will probably work out for you if you're able to stay in a calm, neutral state and be at peace. It'll probably work out for you, but it's not a guarantee. And I will tell you that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to use extreme anger and hatred and force to get what they want. And then there's going to be a lot of people who will try to use all kinds of new age happiness and kindness and all of that. And on both sides, some of those things will work out. But the vast majority of people are going to be totally screwed. And the question becomes, can you just be kind and honor that that is happening and be compassionate and understanding? And when you do, you will discover that you actually have a lot to bring. That if you're resisting it, this is resistance. It's a global awakening. We're all getting better. We're all, look at everything has to burn down and then we're going to feel right. If you're going into the new age philosophy, you're actually resisting the situation, pretending like you're not. Instead, fully and completely embrace the way that people are feeling, embrace the possibility that they're about to lose everything, because there's going to be a lot of people who are in the process right now of losing everything, everything. So be kind today, please. It will make such a difference for your own peace and your own flow. What do you have to say about that, Erin?
Well, I think that the next cut of that conversation is um, practicing a lack of resistance, and I think there's more that we can say about that. I think that what I've learned from you is that the emotional neutrality is it is the state.
It
And
is
I think
it is what enlightenment is. So enlightenment is the
right.
recognition that the source of life for you is the source of life for everyone and everything, and that we are all one thing expressing itself with infinite variety, and that life is expressing itself and you are an expression of it. And when you are able to connect with that idea, which takes some work, when you're able to connect with that idea that you are life expressing itself, you stop being such a survivalist. And when you are no longer in that survival state, you can be hyper present and hyper creative and hyper resourceful.
And so, what are some of the other ways that folks can reach that state of enlightenment? And I'll say, particularly for the kinds of leaders who are viewing us now and are watching us later, people who are this deep into the conversation are people who might be leaning towards everything's going to be okay. And ultimately it will. Ultimately, right?
Right.
Everything's going to be okay. We're having this global awakening. Um, how do people? I mean, can we look at things from both perspectives? If you know, how did this the 15%, the 85% just doesn't care about emotional neutrality. So let's talk about the 15% who do.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah,
we
exactly.
support them? The ones who are with us right now.
I'm going to say a couple things. One, today, put in your calendar a reminder. And I have several reminders in my calendar, and I learned this from reading Benjamin Franklin's book. He talked about taking 12 principles and working on one every single week. And I thought that that was a genius idea because I get so distracted all the time. And so, what I would recommend is that you take one idea and you put it in your calendar for the next week. And that idea is this: practice total and complete acceptance. Practice total and complete acceptance. This will not be easy to do because your natural state will be to resist. And so you have to catch yourself resisting and then accept. I want to also give them another little reminder from Quiet Mind Epic Life. This is another one you and I talked about sharing with everyone. And this is solving problems by getting into alignment and then redirecting. More than ever, this is important. If you go into positivity and optimism right now, you will screw yourself. Your positivity and your optimism will be thought of as a threat by the majority of people that you communicate with. Now they might go like, "Oh yeah, 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 that's so nice." I don't know, but inside, you know what they're like? They're like, "No way."
Hmm.
You just have to be honest. You need to recognize the place that we're at. We're in a survival situation right now. And so your optimistic response is important on the inside. But if you display it too intensely on the outside, you will actually get a negative response back to you, and you don't want that. You actually want to be able to receive the negativity that is happening in the world, fully process it through your acceptance, and then you can transition it and move it in a new direction. So if you are being overly optimistic, you actually will create a negative response for yourself. So I wrote down solve problems by getting into alignment and then redirecting. So you will naturally achieve quiet mind epic life when you are in alignment with life and embracing it exactly as it is. Resisting your life in any way will cause the drunk monkey in your head to engage and start robbing you of your peace with all of its blah, 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 blah. Face your problems today. Accept that they are here. Don't resist, and then trust that all is well. So there's a aspect of enlightenment that steps all the way back, and you begin to recognize that you are an aspect of life creating, and that your life itself is not individually important, which is a really hard pill to swallow. But that is the number one thing that I work with people on embracing. Your life is actually not important. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm saying you're not important. That means that there's a context that helps you to recognize that if you will just be in a state of recognizing I'm part of the grove of trees that are growing that we call humanity, and one of those trees might make it and one may not. When I can step all the way back and embrace that context, I start to have this feeling, and the feeling is that all is well. So step back and recognize that the only reason that you're resisting the issues in your life is because of the hidden motives to survive. And the unconscious reflexes of the drunk monkey are getting activated. In other words, your perception and the way that you're labeling the situation is causing your resistance. The issue is what it is, then you're labeling it. Find alignment with your problems, meaning find a way to make them right, to make them okay. Find the definitions and the descriptions that bring you back to neutral. So then I go on to say that I told a story in the book, and I thought maybe I should tell this story right now. And that story is the story of three umpires. You have a master umpire, and then he's teaching an experienced guy and a new guy, and just taking him through some umpire lessons. And they're in the dugout, and the master umpire looks at these two guys and says, "All right, guys, before we get out on the field, I just want to ask you a question. How do you call a strike?" And the new guy, of course, eager, he says, "Oh well, I look at the ball coming in. I see where the pitcher's throwing it. I look to see if it's in the strike zone or not, and then I call it." And the master umpire, "No. What do you think?" He says to the experienced guy. The experienced guy says, "Well, I mean, it's either in the strike zone or it's not." And the master umpire looks at him and says, "No." And then now these guys are confused. What do you mean? And the master umpire looks at both of them and says, "Guys, the ball ain't nothing till you call it." And I want to say to our viewer and our listener, your life ain't nothing. It ain't nothing till you call it. You get to call it. So what are you going to call it? In my book, I talk about recontextualization, which is the skill of describing the conditions and circumstances of your life in a way that creates an empowering reality for you.
Yes.
That's a skill. And that's not affirmation. And that's not false positivity. That's actually crafting the language to essentially remove victim. So here's the main chart in my book, and you can see here. I want to make sure I'm getting it in there
Yep, it's
correctly.
in there.
There we
Hmm.
go. So you can see that you have the hidden motives to survive, are actually the basis of your survival consciousness. They drive the drunk monkey. And what we do is we apply the aspects, the four components of the rapid enlightenment process, and that puts you into a progressively quieter mind state of enlightenment. Down here, the more connected you are to the hidden motives, the more your mind talks. As you get less and less connected to the hidden motives, your mind talks less and less and less until you jump into those first stages of enlightenment, where now you have less and less talk. It just becomes quieter and quieter and quieter in your mind. And that really is through a state of non resistance. So today, one, be kind, be compassionate, understand, appreciate. People are really scared right now. They're really suffering. Don't be overly positive. It'll actually backfire on you. Don't do that. Instead, really appreciate where they are. Really get into rapport. Really get deep into their negative feelings. And when you fully and completely accept them, this magical thing happens. What you accept will transform, and what you resist will persist. So if you are a leader and your people are suffering, if you're resisting their suffering, it will actually maintain suffering for you, and it will maintain suffering for them. If you will practice accepting it, letting them dump all of their negativity, just getting it all out and fully receiving it, it will then transform inside your system. They'll feel better, you'll feel better, you'll come together in unity and power, and you will go to the next level. This is what we're doing. All my coaching clients and all of my mastermind members, we are literally just hearing each other out, letting each other say all the crappy stuff and just fully accepting it. And what it is it's bonding all of us together, and we're going up in the process.
Yes. Yes, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's absolutely the state that I am in, that I am providing with my clients and for my clients. And I have people that I'm sharing my stuff with, keeping me empowered. Matthew, you talked about, creating an empowering context. I don't know if that's exactly what you said or not, but, I'm always committed to creating an empowering context. And I would love to hear the context that you are creating. Where are you and Kristen coming from? What are you focused on? Excuse me.
It's okay. We're using a very advanced recontextualization right now, and this one, it may not be reachable for people in this moment. But you 100% you can get here. Go through my 23 daily practices. So that's 5 to 6 minutes a day for the next 23 days. Do that, please, immediately. And you can get yourself here. But this is the context that we're holding. It's always going my way, even when it's not. It's always going my way, even when it's not. And what's happening is it's not going our way, Erin. I just want you to know it's not going our way right now. It's going the other direction in a lot of different components of our life. And we are recognizing, even when it is not going our way, that's just our limited ability to see down the road. But if we look at history of our own lives and we look all the way back there, what we see is we've been through all kinds of crisis and breakdowns and craziness and whatnot through our lives. And ultimately, we know ourselves as capable, as we have ingenuity and creativity. And ultimately, we know that as bad as it might get, that's just a time period. And that cycle turns back into the other cycle. And then it just goes over and over and over. And those cycles of up and down never stop. It's a wavy world. It's not a linear world. It's not a certain world. All certainty is a lie. All knowing that everything is going to be okay is untrue. It's actually relabeling the situation of total destruction as the recognition that that is also okay and a part of the reality. That's the next level.
That's what I was just going to say, was that inside of that wave, and I've been thinking the same thing, and I've been asking my clients to think about the same thing. We've all been through really hard times. Everyone has. And this is a new level, a whole new level. We develop skills and resources and ways of being and habits that we can draw upon. And so I think the opportunity that people who are joining us still right now, I say still, that they're still with us, the opportunity that people have is to be able to simultaneously be in a down cycle, not know how things are going to work out, and generate that all is well.
It's the ultimate skill. And I will tell you that I am getting calls from my guys on Wall Street, and they are holed up in their homes in New York, and in a city that the potential for civil unrest is really high, and panic and insanity, and they're basically saying, Matthew, I got this. Thank you. It's working. I'm not panicked. I am very, very clear and focused. I'm not irrational. I'm not optimistic, but I'm not panicked, and I'm not
Yeah.
freaking out. And and they're also saying, inside of that, I recognize that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity right now. And I don't know where the opportunity is going to be. It's nowhere in sight at this moment. Right
Mm-mm.
now, I feel like the entire world is burning to the ground. But they are saying, I also am very, very aware of that out of destruction comes creation.
Yes.
That creation and destruction go hand in hand. They are the exact same thing at just different times in the timeline. And all of these things that you and I have been working on are really coming into play. Now's the time. So I really encourage our viewer and our listener to take me up on the trainings in my free app. You can also just go check out my podcast. I think I put
Yeah.
up 285 lessons on my podcast or on my YouTube channel, and just get yourself going. Erin, I have got a call starting in 3 minutes, so I
Me
want
too.
us to
Yep.
I
Let's
want us
wrap.
to wrap up. And I think
Uh,
I'd like to wrap up by saying one thing. You got this. It's not going to be the end of the world, but it's not going to be pleasant. You aren't going to like it, and that's okay. Your preferences are actually irrelevant. The world doesn't care what you think. It doesn't care what you want. But that is not a call for you to be reactive and greedy and angry. Instead, it is a call for you to be at peace with the volatility of life. Kristen and I say it in this way: a quiet mind plus volatility equals opportunity. So, this is your time if you can maintain your neutral, quiet mind state.
well said. I'll put some links and things into the comments on this video. Thank you. Thank you. You're the best. I love you and appreciate you so much. Thank you for sharing with this community.
We are so blessed over here to have you in our life. So thank you so much for always being a champion, a supporter, and a champion and supporter for all the people out there in St. Louis.
Yeah, my pleasure. We'll see everybody soon.
Bye bye,
Bye
everybody.
bye.